You've just tuned into InnoStation, but the latest and hottest topics are always on air. I'm your host, Cami, and each episode will be serving up some heat with fun chats, fire insights, special guest appearances, and a couple of surprises along the way. Now, as we all know, February is, of course, the month of love. And while the focus during this time is usually on love within a more romantic context, we thought we'd bring the concept of self love into the conversation as well. So today I have international performance coach Alvin Govender joining us to explore how the concept of self love can impact productivity and performance, both in your personal and professional life. Welcome to InnoStation, Alvin.
Thank you so much, Cami. I'm excited to be here today and sharing my story and joining you with this podcast. Looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm excited as well.
Yeah.
Now, I think to get us started, let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us who Alvin
Yeah.
is and what fuels your inner fire.
So I'm still figuring out who Alvin is in the process of doing that. But just to share with you from a career perspective, I found myself in the coaching space in the last 14 years. So I'm the CEO of Awakening Leadership, currently running some big projects across the country with the goal of getting organizations to be more productive, to take care of their people, and to solve some leadership issues facing many organizations. So I've been a performance coach now for 14 years, and with that came motivational speaking and picking people up and finding solutions to problems that companies face all the time, and even people issues that people are facing in the workspace. So that's where I find myself now. And previously, I was a school teacher, which I'm very, very grateful for, because I think teaching sort of connected me with the mind and the soul of a person.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, leadership starts. It started there in the school. And people always ask me, how do I go from 8 o'clock in the morning right till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, talking to people and still being energized at the end? And I always say that if you're a school teacher, you learn that very quickly. So I think what fuels my desire. I love what I do. I definitely have a passion for seeing companies grow through this coaching process. So we take a company through a small journey, a 3-month, 6-month journey, and in that time we see a difference in terms of results. I think that drives me. What drives me is seeing people put systems in place in their life and getting a different result. It's almost like a personal trainer, but this is not in the gym, but in your life, attracting
Right.
some kind of success. So I get really passionate and excited about seeing growth, whether it's in a person or in a company.
Oh, cool. And I like the concept of like a personal trainer, but like for life and like for your mind as well. I think that's a really good analogy to use for that. And you mentioned that you are the owner of Awakening Leadership. Let's get a little bit into that. Can you tell us the story behind Awakening and why and how you got started?
Well, actually, I was in a classroom, and I remember around 2006, 2007, I was in a classroom and almost getting frustrated. Not frustrated being a teacher, but frustrated that we had to teach maths and science and geography to children. But for me, there was something missing in education. And where I started to see a lot of success in 2006 and 2007 with students is that if you were my student, I would get you to believe in yourself more, to love your work more. And I found that as the belief system in this child started to shift, they got better marks. So I said, no, I think we're onto something here, right? I think if I could focus, I started focusing more on getting on. Now I know it was coaching students, because back then it was about self-esteem and self-confidence and leadership. And children, students, this was the grade 5, grade 6 class. So you imagine a 12, 13-year-old latching onto some of these leadership principles and changing. So they started to connect with me. I started to love teaching and have a passion for these children. And they started to connect with that. Then I said, I think I'm in the wrong space here. I think I need more time to just work on the minds of these children and help them. By doing that, they will get better marks. And I think that's where Awakening Leadership grew. It was me going in and studying, saying, okay, let me study a little bit more in terms of the psychology of the child, the mind of the child. I was already doing that because remember I was a motivational speaker at the time,
Yeah.
speaking at corporate conferences. And this was almost like an extra income that I was making. So
Yeah.
I had the leadership background, but I said, let me try and focus more on this. So that's when I got into, and at that time, Cami, coaching wasn't as big as it is now. It's still a very new
Mm.
concept. A lot like how we talk about AI now. So all of us use the word AI, but we don't know actually what it is and what it can do. So that's how I got into coaching. And then I studied coaching, and I was started to create my own tools and own way of working. And then I realized that I was already connected with the corporates in South Africa, and I started to work with some of these companies. And although I'm not in a school anymore, I'm now in corporate South Africa working as a performance coach. And
Yeah.
that's how the transition happened quite naturally, actually. Yeah, that's how I got started. It started with children, and I think it's gonna go full circle. I think I'm gonna end up back in the classroom.
Back with children.
I can see it happening there. That's one of my desires actually, is to go and take. I think all the listeners will know this, but coaching is quite expensive. So if you
Yeah.
got to get a coach, it costs a lot of money. So especially the work that we're doing and some of the projects that we're running, and I always have in the back of my mind, if I can create a business model that takes this kind of leadership concept into a
Mm.
school, then I know I've done something. Because if I could take it to students that can't afford it
Yeah.
and make it available in some creative way, and I think I'm close to doing that. But if I do that, I think then I would be completely happy because I know that's where I'm going to end up.
Yeah. And
Full circle.
I think that would be really great, because then you would be essentially taking what you've learned about leadership in an adult setting, in the business setting, and bringing it to these kids, and they get to learn all of these things that we learned later on, very early on.
Yeah,
And I think that could help them carve out their path a lot better than like what we had, because
yeah.
we just sort
And
of had
if
to.
yeah, and if I test the responses that I've got, so I've got quite a lot of success with my older coaches, or like this. I work a lot with executives, as you know, executives
Yeah.
in an organization, a group of vice presidents, a CEO and his team of executives. The best responses I've got now to some of these coaching principles was the 16 to 25-year-old age group. These
Mm.
guys are so passionate, they're so hungry, like people like yourself, they're ready to soak everything up. And I think
Yeah.
for me, it's to catch people at that age. They have the passion already. If I can start working with that age group, I think we will have such a dynamic country if you could look at it. Because you look at the potential in South Africa of
There
these
is a
young
lot.
leaders. I think that's where I would like to invest my time.
Yeah.
And
And I think it'll be time well spent, because I saw a thing where someone was saying the 20s are sort of where a lot of people start to give up on themselves. So I think having a coach like yourself come in and really take these kids by the hand and help them through will really keep them passionate through like into their 30s, and sort of build more stable careers and get into loving what they do as well.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and yeah, definitely.
And you had mentioned that you sort of saw a correlation between how kids teaching these children, while you were a teacher, teaching them self love, sort of correlated with their grades going higher, right? And I want to get a little bit into that and how you've seen that concept manifest in the corporate world as well, like how the concept of self love affects how one is able to perform in the workspace, and also if they're like a business owner, how that helps them perform better.
Yeah, I think. Look, I'll speak to you, and please feel free to come in. Right, so it's almost like I'm coaching you now. So just let's use you as the test subject here. Love is one of the most misinterpreted words or concepts, because when we think about love, we think of romantic love, and,
Yeah.
and it's one of those aspects. Now, what we don't get right, and you're speaking to someone who's walked the journey, right? So
Mm.
I'm much older now, but if I look at the first half of my life, all the depression and anxiety that I got into was because I misunderstood what this thing was, what this energy of love is. And
Yeah.
when I say depression, I mean depression. You know, going
Mm.
through whatever it is, whether it's a breakup or feeling like you're not part of a team. And I spoke about young people now. The reason why young people kind of like the energy that I bring into the room and the sessions were a success is because I share some of these stories. So I'm
Mm.
very real to say, guys, this is where I messed up. What are your thoughts? I learn from my mistakes. Listen to my story.
Yeah.
So the mistake that people make, or young people make, and I'm talking about young people that could be 65 years old today,
Hmm.
because we're all young in some weird way. But if you're not feeling love inside you, then you should not be looking for a relationship
Yeah.
because you're going to get into trouble. Now, I'm saying something very controversial, but let me say it. Well, what I'm telling you is if you've not figured out yourself yet, don't
Hmm.
go and get into a relationship
Yeah.
because your first mission is to figure out who Cami is and who
Yes.
Alvin is. Because when you get into a relationship, then what you're going to do is you're going to fill a void and then you're going to expect that person there to fill that gap.
Hmm.
And that's the first mistake I make. And then you go and project whatever fears or low self-esteem onto someone else. And
Hmm.
that's what we're finding in the world today. Take any two people that are in a relationship. Both are looking to each other for something. And when that other person no longer fills that gap, you
Mm.
get this conflict. You'll be like, I'm sorry, this relationship is over. I'm going to go and find something else, someone else.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening now. And I want you to think about your own experience. When I said your own experience, I mean even people around you, your friends and family.
Mm.
So the concept of love is there's a beautiful person here. Find out who this person is. Find
Right.
out what makes you unique. I mean, look at me right now. I'm more or less very happy with the space that I've been in. Not like 15 years ago where I was miserable. Things were not working out, and I had all these issues. But now I get up in the morning and I got a smile on my face, and
Mm.
because of that, attract other people. So I'm going out for coffee in the afternoon. I'm meeting business partners. My life is becoming fuller, and the reason for that is because I know who I am,
Yeah.
and I know who I am not. So that's the first aspect of love, is that I see a lot of young people out there that are very sad on the inside and going out and looking for someone to make them happy. And that's not going to happen. So I'd rather have two people that are experiencing love in themselves come together and that love starts to expand. Because
Yeah.
there's nothing more romantic than someone coming into your home later, your girlfriend or your husband or your wife walking in through the door. And there's nothing that you need from them, but you just enjoying their company without any expectation. It's just like, let's have,
Right.
and that's what we're missing in relationships. And that is where we get into trouble. Now, coming back to what does self-love have to do with business? It's actually a brilliant question. Now, Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Grit. So
Hmm.
every person needs to go and read this. She said we can predict people whether they're going to be successful or not. So grit is now the success indicator in every
Oh.
in every leadership tool. So Camille, will you be successful in the next 5 years or 10 years? we
Yeah.
can we can predict that, right? So
Yes.
whether it's in your career, in your relationships, in your any goal, take any goal, and I can predict that. Now we look at two indicators. Number one, passion, which is love.
Mhm.
How passionate are you? Now, if you look at myself, I'm a performance coach. I'm passionate about helping organizations grow. So my
Hmm.
passion score out of 10 would be an 8 or 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Now, according to Angela Duckworth, I got a very high chance of being successful in the next 5 years.
Mm.
Perseverance means the ability to keep going even though there's pressure. Now, that two things together, passion and perseverance. Now, let's replace the word passion with love. That's what we're talking about. Is
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years, and how much of love do you have for that? And that's what's going to become success, help you become successful. Now, right now, as we're speaking, what does it have to do about business? If you go for a job interview right now, we're going to ask you the question. So, why did you apply for this job? What's
Yeah.
important to you? What we're looking, you might say, oh, that's a stupid question because I mean, I need to pay my Edgar's account here. Why else would I do this
Right.
job?
You give a
And
social media answer to make money.
to make money, it's like, and that's what we're telling people is that, do you love what you do?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be an indication of what value you bring. What's your worth as a person? What do you feel about yourself right now? are you a high value person?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not about you thinking that you're better than anyone else. It
Yeah.
is, it is, remember, there's a thing that I read when I was 16 years old. It said, God doesn't create junk. God does not create average.
Mm.
There's only brilliance inside you. Do you see yourself as high value? That means, okay, your life might be in a mess right now if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
You got a whole lot of problems, but in a year from now, things can be different. So if you see yourself as high value, you
Mm.
attract opportunities and people into your life. I don't have to chase another person because
Yeah.
I feel lonely. Lonely will never exist. In fact, if I am alone, I'll be like, oh, I got some time to myself. Finally, I'm going to
Yes.
enjoy this moment. Versus another person, versus 20 years ago, I'll be like, why am I alone? Why don't I have anyone? I'll never
Right.
reach
Yeah.
that space of feeling alone because I'm too full. And Cammy, I'm not showing off here in any way. I'm just saying there's Alvin was 15 years ago and there's Alvin now.
Mm.
And that's the difference with self-love and a lack of self-love. It's sort of that's what the impact is. My business will expand when I experience love within myself.
Right.
And when the amount of love that I have within myself is the amount of self-worth I'm going to have. And
Yeah.
there's a direct correlation between them. Now, I don't know if you follow any sport, but let's just say soccer. Cristiano Ronaldo became one of the best footballers in the world. Imagine if he ran onto that football pitch at the age of 20 going, I hate soccer. I
Yeah.
can't
He
stand this
wouldn't
thing.
have.
I've
He
been doing
wouldn't
it
have
for the
become
last
good.
5 years. You will not become the world's best if you
Mm.
don't have love as the foundation.
Right. And I
And there's
think
too
that's
many young people that are just doing it because "Oh, I need to drive a GTI or I need to make money. Money will come. Money
yeah.
will come when you see yourself as a powerful being. It's planting seeds now and reaping those rewards later on.
And I think that's the thing. It speaks to a concept that I'm really into of like what your self concept is. And I always say that that affects everything because it's true. You can chase the money and you can chase the material things, but much like somebody going and sort of finding people to fill the void, you're also filling the void with those material things. And the truth is, it never will be enough. Like, you never will have enough. There's always a new GTI coming out. There's always a
Mm.
new this to have. There's always a new that to have, and that void never gets filled and you never feel great and you never feel good in your accomplishments. I think, yeah, that's an important thing for people to pay attention to, is like you need self-love in order for you to feel like you are worth the things that are coming
Absolutely.
in order
You're
for you.
learning fast. Well done.
Yeah, look very
Learning
quickly.
fast. You're learning fast.
I
Well, there's one principle very quickly. I mean, write this down if you're listening to this now. It's don't chase it, attract it.
exactly,
It's
yes.
a simple principle. It's like chasing it means I need that car or that person to define who I am. It
Yeah.
validates me. And attracting it means I'm just going to have it because I can have it. And
Yeah.
if I don't have it now, it's okay. I'll get it later.
Right.
There's no worth attached to that. It's like okay,
Mhm.
I drive a nice car, so I'll be a hypocrite if I say that I don't like driving or having nice things. But independent of those things, I still am. I
Yeah.
am. Yeah,
And
it,
that
it
is
just
the
makes so
famous
much of
law
sense
of
now.
attraction. That's the law of attraction. Like, you
Yeah.
have to become what it is that you want. You have to believe that you can have it just because in order for it to come in. And I think you've just mentioned, while we're on the topic of like self-concept and self-perception, a lot of what we've seen lately, with increased social media engagement and increased social media use, is a change in how people are perceiving
Yeah.
themselves. Would you agree, or what is your stance rather on the concept of, or the idea of, social media having a direct impact on people's self-love?
Well, we can just look at the data now and what the data is showing.
Mm,
So again, I'm not anti-social media.
yeah,
But again, it's one of the biggest distractions that we have right now. That
true.
and all the other apps, whether it's social media or just being on your phone. You know, say the average South African. In fact, someone in marketing told me this: the average South African is spending between 7 to 10 hours a week on their phones on social
That's
media.
it.
And I
Yeah,
almost fell off my chair.
it's
And I was
insane.
just like, it's 7 to 10 hours. So you can get your MBA in that.
Yeah, you're just on
You
social
know,
scrolling.
so yeah, if you don't have a degree, you can get a degree in 3 years if you had to. And I was laughing at the person. I said it's probably 7 hours because they ran out of data. It's probably going to be a lot more because that's what
Yeah,
an addiction is. So you know, in one of the ancient scriptures, I'm just forgetting which one it was. It says there's always this thing in front of you that takes you away from the truth,
Yeah.
and the truth is that you are a being of infinite potential.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the professional football player Messi or Ronaldo, imagine at the age of 17, if these guys were scrolling on their phones, figuring out who am I, they would
Yeah.
lost the opportunity, and they've never invested in their football skills. And Ronaldo, who's a multi-millionaire now, would be sitting there somewhere going, "Who am I?"
Exactly.
So instead of investing in yourself, you go and you get distracted by the noise outside of you.
Mm.
And that noise, remember, we call it a dopamine rush, right? You
Yeah.
reach for your phone because you just understand the psychology here. This is very interesting. So I'm feeling a bit of anxiety for whatever reason. I'm feeling lonely. I've got accounts to play. I'm stressed about my job. I'm not feeling worthy. And then you reach for your phone and it gives you that TikTok video, gives you a quick distraction, a
Yeah.
rush. We call it a dopamine rush. So it's like eating a chocolate. So for that few seconds, you forget, and you could be binge watching series on Netflix or
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's not only social media. So it all of you just think about this at the moment. What power do you have? What goal do you have that's important to you? Where do you see yourself in a year from now? And then this device that you have
Mm.
is preventing you from being there because it just pulls you away from what you need to do. And that is why you find that anyone that has a mental health issue, or let's say if you have a bit of anxiety, you're really stressed, what you do automatically is you just procrastinate. You'll just be
Right.
like, okay, I'm not going to gym today. I'll start fresh tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the sign that your mind is not in a space to create. So procrastination comes from fear, and it's the fear of who you are that
Mm.
causes you to not do. So when I learned this at a young age, I'd be like, I'm going to keep doing what I need to do to overcome this. When I heard that procrastination is actually a
Yeah.
child of fear, I'll be like, no, sorry, I'm getting to gym now. So I don't listen to that
Mm.
voice in my head. So the big thing, coming back to your question here about self-love, is this is very interesting. Do you know that people right now, well, a majority of people that are hooked on their social media get validation from those posts? I mean, you look at a
Yeah.
person calling themselves an influencer. I mean, I
Mhm.
always find that's a funny word. For me, an influencer is a CEO of a company, right? I mean,
Right.
is a role model to me, is a mentor, a professional athlete. That's an influencer. They've reached high levels of success. Forgive me for saying this, but now if you dance in your underwear on TikTok, you call yourself an influencer. So if you're half naked on social media, you're gonna get 10,000 views.
Yeah, which is
But
true.
you're attracting a whole lot of people that are looking for a certain thing. It doesn't make you an influencer. I'm sorry
Mm.
that I'm sounding harsh here, but what happens is now you got a whole lot of messages coming into your inbox of a certain kind of person that's looking for a certain kind of thing, and you're feeding
Right.
that, and you're counting all your likes. And what is actually happening is that kind of validation now defines you. You
Yeah.
constantly need to post more to get that, and that's what's going to lead to depression. Now, females need to be very careful that they're going to attract a group of people that they, remember, if you're posting your physical looks only on social media, then you're going to attract a person into your life that bases who you are based on just your physical looks.
Yeah.
Now you become, Cami, the podcast lady, because now people start loving you because of your mind. And
Versus,
people
yeah.
like me because, okay, this is the guy that you bring into a company if you want some positive change. What you're putting out there becomes your brand.
Right.
You
Yes.
need to be careful that you're not going to create some kind of future crisis. And remember, the dangerous thing about social media is, and I'm saying I'm basing this on the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting 100 likes and you are in a relationship and you come home and your partner doesn't give you that same validation, you'll be like, sorry, this is enough for me, I'm leaving. Right? And that is why it's so dangerous, is because now people are more hooked on their phones than real relationships. And the reason is because the
That's
phone is
true.
giving them more of
Yeah.
validation. It doesn't matter if it's a fake word, but it's still giving them that. So no judgment here about social media. It's just that for me, it's just a big distraction, and it's taking us away from what's really important. unless you're using social media as a tool to build your personal brand. That's
Mm.
very different.
Now, before going to my next question, I'm like just in defense of influencers. I think there is a big difference between the influencers that sort of came up during the era of like TikTok and traditional influencers. Because traditional influencers generally market to businesses. And that's why a lot of the
Yeah.
time you hear people speak about those types of influencers like, oh, they're unrelatable, oh, they're because it really is like a business.
Yeah.
It really matters what they post, how they post, and what they're looking like on their
Yeah.
socials. But then there are the people that then jump on that bandwagon of that label and sort of post whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess that is the validation camp. But shame, there are influencers that genuinely are there doing like
Yeah.
influencing in its traditional form. Yeah.
No, social media, the positives about social media is that you don't have to be a professional athlete or an actor now to be. I mean, there are influencers uh, that are that have used just their phone to get themselves to that level,
Yeah.
which is commendable. And that is why I said something. If you're using the title of influencer, but you're using it to just validate yourself and fill in the
Mm,
void, that's dangerous.
very true.
But if you building your personal brand on and you're adding value to the lives of people, then that's a positive thing. So that's
Yeah.
why I said there's neither good or bad here. It's just coming down to what's your intention.
Mm,
Because is it impacting your goals and getting like I'm going to be using these videos to get my message out.
right.
It's
Yes.
aligning to my brand. It's aligning to
Yes.
my brand. And that's what each person needs to do. This. And kind of the reason why I'm being so harsh is because in the coaching world, I've had people come to me that went viral on these social media platforms
Mm,
that went into depression a year later. And they told me that it's because they could not sustain that kind of energy and it became a distraction. So we got to
yeah.
be cautious of how we use any tool in life. And it's not just social media. You got to set boundaries for yourself.
Yes.
And you got to know
Definitely.
who the real people are because that's what
Yeah.
happens sometimes.
And I think that it's true. Everything isn't for everybody because yeah, imagine virality is a bit shocking and it is a lot to handle. But you had mentioned sort of women and sort of how we exist on social media. And that sort of brings me into my next question. I had a question about like what you think, whether you think that self-love or a lack of self-love then affects women and men differently, and how you've seen that manifest, if so.
No, I think there's lots of similarities, and I don't want to stereotype into men and women because there'll be
Yeah.
obviously a mix of how we interact. So it's really about each person and how they are sort of getting that validation and using social media, And but
Mm,
what I have seen some patterns, and I'll tell you where the risk is. In fact, we've predicted. I worked with a group of psychologists through the business, and we predicted that women will be more likely to get into depression in the future because, and I'm talking about depression through relationships. Now, just hear me out.
mm. I will.
And everyone can challenge me, but I love this because it's stimulating our thinking. We find that women are getting more attention
Mm,
on social media. Like just look at anyone right now that posts a pretty picture of themselves. So I post a nice picture with me in a nice muscle fitted shirt. I might get like 5 likes or something, but then I'll find out they're all guys. And then I'll find out, okay, then a female posts a picture and there might be a thousand likes on that.
yeah.
And and then there'll be a whole lot of messages coming in. And this kind of boosts the confidence of a female. And this is what we've been sort of having conversations with people and have been sharing this. So it
Mm,
almost becomes like fatigue. So if a guy comes and tells you, "Oh, you look beautiful," you're like, "Oh, I've heard that before."
yeah.
Right.
Actually,
But what actually is like, oh, so and it's almost like men now become starved of attention.
yeah.
And you see it on the dating sites, on the dating apps. Like a female might have 100 clicks, and then you
Yeah.
get things like dating fatigue, and it'll be like, So the danger, the risk, and this is why I'm saying females, based on this stat. So, Gary,
Mm,
it's okay for you to disagree with me because I need more data, And so the risk here is that it's easier to get into a relationship. So it's
Yeah.
easier to get out. So if this relation, so let's say you are in a relationship now at 6 months and you'll be like, okay, hey, I'm getting more attention on social media. And then you have one argument with your boyfriend and you go like, oh, sorry, this is too much for me. I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's what Tinder is doing, right? Tinder and all these dating apps is that they make it easy to get that first date. But before it was quite an effort. You
Yeah.
go through the stress, you go through the adrenaline. How do I talk to this person? Do I ask them out for coffee? And Tinder has taken all that away. And now it's either what, swipe right, swipe left. You get into a
Yeah.
relationship and you'll be like, okay, it's not working out. It should be easy in, easy out.
Yeah.
And that is what the risks are. The risks are is that this female who now has 1,000 comments in a message box
Mm.
now gets into a relationship and she finds that the person that's there is not quality.
Yeah.
And it could be the same for a male, by the way. And this is what we're saying. The basis of you getting into a relationship should you be, and this has never changed, is that your values need to align.
Right.
And
Yes.
that missing link right now in seeing a person as they really are and finding an authentic person and knowing a person through all this is what's missing. So is it different for men and women? We're still trying to figure this out. So everyone here needs to ask themselves what's important or what's real for them. But what
Yeah.
we find that women, the general trends, and I've been involved in a lot of programs where we've done coaching programs, and the general trends is that self-love was defined for a female as going to the spa, doing my nails, doing my hair, and it was still based on something physical,
Mm.
going to the gym, you know, and that what is what self-love is. But self-love for females listening to the self-love means starts with the foundation of discovering who you are.
Right.
And for men, it was like, oh, I had a rough week. I'm just gonna go to the pub, I'm gonna watch the soccer. And the obsession with the sport or the obsession with something outside of him
Yeah.
became the distraction. And that's where we found the general patterns with male and female. It's coming down and coming back to yourself and your self-worth and who
Mm.
you are that defines what your investment should be.
Yeah.
Is that making sense? I know I've said a lot there.
No, that is making sense. And I definitely can agree that there's a lot of externalization of like what self-love is. I think a lot of people have self-care and self-love misconstrued. And I think
Yeah.
self-care is rooted
Yeah.
in self-love. You have to have a love of self to want to show up for yourself in ways of taking care of yourself. But I think because we externalize so much of it, we miss the things that are important. Like you're saying, discovering who you are and getting those foundational things like your values in check,
Yeah.
what you are about, what drives your passion, and then externalizing it and sort of seeing how it manifests itself in the world around you. So yeah, I definitely agree that there's a lot of externalization going on.
And there's one more thing that I'm picking up a lot based on this is a lot of people are now saying, oh, you know what, I've had such bad experiences with dating. I'm just going to be single.
Mm.
I'm just going to be on my own. And you know, people have said that. Oh, you know what? There's no more good men out there, or there's no
Yeah.
more good women out there. And this is if you've made those comments, and there's also a new concept called dating fatigue. So someone who's never been a date for the last 3 years is suddenly going on 8 dates a month just because of the social media sites. And at
Yeah.
the end of the whole thing, it's just so frustrating and it's putting people off because
Yeah.
there's something so unnatural about that process. And I'm not against the dating apps. I'm not against this. I'm just saying the process of what you're doing to yourself is impacting how you're seeing these relationships and how
Yeah.
you see yourself.
And that is very true. And I think a lot of the sort of conversation about how there are no good men or good women out there comes down to like if you're on 8 dates in a week, you probably haven't had enough time to properly vet these people. And so chances are you're just on a date with people you're incompatible with. You're on a date with people that are like, because as much as you say you're not against the dating apps, I'm like, throw them
Yeah,
all away. Because at
yeah,
this point, I think a lot of them have become more so like hookup apps versus
yeah,
people actually seeking like genuine relationships.
yeah,
And so there's a lot of like people coming into contact with people that are misaligned in terms of what they're trying to do. And then it does feel like,
yeah.
oh, well, there are no good guys or there are no good women because everybody just wants this and that. And it's like, no, No, get off the apps.
I'll share with you a fun story that happened, a quick one. My friend gave me permission to share this as long as I don't mention the name, obviously. But
Yeah.
so he was on the dating site, and this girl didn't. I don't understand this thing, honestly. I might sound silly now, but didn't swipe in the right direction, right? Swipe right
Yeah.
or swipe left. So and then he tells me, "Oh, this is the girl." We were at the gym having coffee, and then he says, "Okay, this is the girl, but she didn't swipe right."
Which
I'll
is
be
so
like, "Okay,
important.
there she there. Why don't you just go say hi?" He'd be like, "What do you mean go and say hi?" I says, "There she's there. Go and introduce yourself." For me, that's so normal. I'm like, "There's a
Yeah.
girl that I'm quite interested in. Let me go and say hi and introduce myself." He says, "I can't do that." I says, "Why?" He says, "Because I'm not like you. I don't have the confidence to approach. And besides, she's already rejected me." I said, "She rejected you because she didn't know who you are. Because
Yeah.
on the lineup of like 50 other people, now's an
Mhm.
opportunity to be unique." So in my mind, I go, this is so normal. There's a person, go and say hi. He was like,
Yeah.
"No." And listen to what he said, Cami. He said, "I'm not as confident as
Mm.
you to do something like this." And that's what we need to understand, is that you need to work on your confidence,
Yes,
not
definitely.
find an app as a substitute for that.
Exactly. I think
So
people
when,
can't do people
yeah,
can't do the interpersonal stuff because you're always
yeah.
on the screen and it's like just go say hi.
And I'm speaking about this as a coach to say, guys, work on your confidence, work on your
Yeah.
self-esteem. You're looking now you met this girl on Tinder, you got married to her, then she goes to a job, and there's a guy there that says, "Hi there, I must say you look extremely beautiful. I'd like to
Yeah.
take you out for coffee." Now she says, "Sure, this guy's got so much of confidence," because that's what's attractive.
Right.
Not the guy that's sitting behind the phone and going like, "Oh, I can't approach people." So work on yourself,
Hmm.
and that will make you more attractive. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
this
don't know.
isn't just in dating, like in everything. You need confidence. Confidence is essential for everything.
Yes.
And
And the research has shown, by the way, I've studied this because we did the relationship coaching for a few companies, is that
yeah,
high value people, this is male and female, by the way,
yeah,
high value people are most attractive. We are attracted to the minds of people, not just their body.
yeah,
And that's what we need to realize, is that if I see someone, a female, that's successful in their role and they own themselves, I'm attracted to that.
right.
I want to get to know that person a bit more. So do that. Take a year, guys. Take 1 year, 12 months, and just say, for the next 12 months, I'm going to fall in love with myself. And Joe, I'll tell you a quote now, Cami, tell me if you like this. This came from Joe Dispenza, who's a neuroscientist.
Yeah,
He says, in the future, relationships is going to be one of the biggest causes of depression
it's true.
in people. And he predicted this, he says, because of dating sites. He says,
Hmm.
because people, and this is a nice quotation to take away today. He says, you are falling in love with body parts.
Yeah,
And because you're falling in love with body parts, that's going to be the basis of your relationship, and it's going to lead to some collapse.
exactly.
So you're attracted to a person's face
Yeah,
or their body, and that's going to be the basis of a relationship. And your values are so far away from. I'm talking about values. Be
yeah,
attracted to a person because of their values.
because of
How
their
far
values.
away is it from that?
It really, really is. And bodies change. I think as people, we forget that, right? Because when you're on the apps and you're swiping and it's fun times, especially in your younger years, you feel like, oh, I'm up and I'm popping and as much as you can keep up with yourself, bodies do change. And also the
Yeah,
things that you value do change. So if you
yeah,
start out not necessarily looking to be aligned with people on the things that actually do matter, when you're older, you're in a marriage with somebody or you're in a long-term relationship with somebody and you're on shaky ground because you've either outgrown this person
yeah,
or who you've become in your aging is no longer compatible with who they are, or you just don't know each other. You're like in a relationship with a complete
yeah,
stranger just because you thought they were cute, and it's it's odd.
yeah. Well, physical attraction is an important part of any relationships. We'd be
It
lying to
is.
say that it isn't. I mean, if it isn't important, but if it's only that, that's the reason why, then something very big is missing inside of you. If that
Yeah.
you can live. I know a person who was just in with this beautiful person, and it was like a status thing for him. Like, it
Mm.
validated him, and he would. But this woman was so toxic.
Yeah.
and abusive towards him, but he took it just because, well, she's good looking.
Yeah.
And that's what we're saying is a physical attraction, but make sure there's alignment in all the areas as well.
Yeah. And the thing with physical attraction is you can be physically attracted to a lot of people. So it's it's
Yeah.
not a good basis to sort of start on. But with that being said, let's get to know the man behind all of the business and all of the wisdom. When you're not awakening leaders, Alvin, what are you getting up to? Do you have any hobbies, anything interesting that you get up to in your free time?
Look, I think there's a big connection between who I am and what I'm doing. So I got very lucky, right? I think
Yeah.
if you look at the work that I'm doing in terms of leadership, started with me. Oh, by the way, at the age of 16 to 25, and that's why I like that age group, 16 to 25, is because my life
Hmm.
was a mess. And if any 16 to 25-year-old is truthful, they'll say their life is in a mess also. There's so
I
much,
can attest to that.
there's so much going on. And weirdly enough, I don't know where I got the wisdom from, but
Hmm.
my friends were turning outward into other relationships and getting a job and playing professional sport. And I was going within myself and saying, I need to figure myself out
Yeah.
because too much of a mess. So I think I'm still that guy now. I'm,
Hmm.
I'm, I'm, I've changed the way I've looked physically. I mean, I've been in the gym for the last 20 years training. So I look completely different than I did 20 years ago. I've changed my
Yeah.
mind completely. I'm not the personality that I was 20 years ago, just because I've
Hmm.
completely transformed myself. And so I'm fascinated about this person or this being that can be anything in 12 months. So
Yeah.
that's who I am in the weekend. It's like I'm experimenting. I love the meditation. And for me, meditation is not just sitting and praying and going, God, please, 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 That's not meditation. It's meditation is just watching the mind. It's like observing my mind, observing my fears, my worries, my anxieties, and I have a lot of that.
Hmm.
So I love reading still. I love spending time with positive people, and thankfully, my business. If you look at some of the big business owners, they're motivational. They are inspiring in their own way, and
Yeah.
weekends I get to spend some time with them. So that's the first thing. I think the second one is I've got a 15-year-old,
Hmm.
my daughter, who is so much of fun, absolute fun. So I'm loving being a dad right now to a 15-year-old, and I can tell jokes that are not so funny. I can just be there. I can, I'm there. I think my first job as a coach is to be the best father I can for my daughter. So I'm loving that. I'm loving that journey. Teaching her how to drive now. We go to the gym together. We just so a lot of my weekends is just being there and enjoying her. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think she enjoys me as well. So I think I spend a lot of my time with her. And then the rest of the time is so I travel a lot for my work. I'm always
Hmm.
with people. I'm always visiting new places. So for me, rest in the weekend is just staying at home
Yeah.
and just enjoying myself. And sometimes not having a plan
Yeah.
is my plan for the weekend because it re-energizes myself. But I love being in the gym and pushing my
Mm.
body to the next level. And I'm going to be I'm 47 at the moment, and my goal was to be by my next birthday is to be fitter than I was at the age of 30. So I'm challenging myself to see what I can actually do at this age, and can I still be the I think I'm a 25-year-old. So I still do the things like a 25-year-old does. So I think that my health goals are quite big. So I'm in the gym almost every day.
Yeah.
Weekends I train. Weekends I train twice as hard. So yeah, that's what I do with my time.
When is your next birthday? So we can check in and
In
see if you've
in
met that
June,
goal.
well, yeah, it's a dangerous thing to say this, right? Because now it'll be like, shit, this guy's so overweight, he didn't achieve his goals. So yeah, my birthday is in June. So I've
Awesome,
got
awesome. I'm
4
gonna check
months.
in with you in June and check. And we are very positive over here, so there won't be
Yeah,
any.
yeah,
We're very encouraging.
yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for that.
And Alvin, what is one top tip that you could give for somebody that's looking to cultivate more self-love for themselves?
I think sit alone. Sit alone,
Mm.
take the journal. That's what I did when I reached my lowest point. And there were a few
Mm.
times this happened. I took a journal and I started writing down. what's creating the issue for me,
Yeah.
and figure yourself out. Don't don't run away from yourself. I know it's hard for some people to not have anyone around and sit alone quietly. Put the
Yeah.
music off, put the TV off, put your phone off, and go, okay, what's going on? What do I need to face?
Yeah.
You don't realize this, Cammy, but we're creatures of habit. The same problem that you're having now, if you don't solve it, you'll find that the same problem repeats itself. Look at anyone that's close to you or people around you, and you find that if they're having a relationship issue, they're always having a relationship issue.
Mm.
If they're having a financial issue, they're always having a financial issue. So
True.
it's going to keep coming back to you until you start making a change. But before you start making the change, figure yourself out, figure out what you need to do differently. We are
Mm.
very resistant. I mean, the way we're made up, we're very resistant to doing something differently. Like if you're
Yeah.
drinking coffee every day at 10 o'clock, you're reaching for the coffee every day. Now you go and within yourself and tell yourself, what am I wanting to do differently? What
Yeah.
do I need to change? And that's what you need to face. I think we need to figure out who we are. The basis for me of self-love comes with self-management. And
Yeah.
self-management is setting goals for yourself. And that is why I look like working with younger people, is because the one thing I tell them is you have absolutely no idea how powerful you are. But
Mm.
if you're going to get up every day and do the same things, what is going to be different? So
Yeah.
first goal is face the mess that you've created for yourself. You can't run away from that, right? And that mess could be you did not study when you're supposed to be studying and now you don't have a
Yeah.
degree, right? Or you were going after relationship and chasing people. Now you've got a whole lot of trail of toxic people behind you. Or you're in money mess or whatever it is. Face those things, set
Mm.
some goals around that and go right in 12. And Les Brown was a motivational speaker, said this. He says, just remember, no matter what pain you're going through in your life, in 12 months from now, it's going to be different.
Very
And
true.
what more do you need to realize that you are a powerful being? It's going to be different, but sit down and write down today what you're going to change.
Yeah. And as part of that practice, Alvin, are you a believer in sort of radical honesty?
Yeah, I'm against toxic positivity, definitely, right? I think I don't want you to walk out of here going, all will be well, all will be well. So the first thing is fair, and this is what people love. I always tell people is like we anti-motivation. I don't know if you pick this up. It's like we don't want the motivational speakers saying, you can do this, go out, do like the
Yeah.
cheerleaders. The new form of motivation is coaching. And
Mm.
coaching is, okay, Cameron, we looked at the data. This is where you're messing up.
Yeah.
Okay, like hey, I used to be a motivational speaker. This is you're looking for love everywhere else. You've
Yeah.
got debt too much just because you're buying handbags all the time. All right,
Yeah.
let's go now and start putting a system in place. So the new form of motivation is facing the truth. And this
And I
is
love
what
that.
companies are loving this. So I went from being the motivational speaker to going, guys, this is what the data is saying.
Yeah.
What do we do about it? And now, where do you see yourself in 6 months from now? What
Mm.
changes are we going to make? So it's almost working, and we use the personal trainer example. But the reason why I like using the personal trainer example is because you can see the weight and
Hmm.
you can see the results and you can see the person doing the exercise and you can see their form is off.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of things to change. Now, if you look at the whole universe as a gym and your mind is like your body, you go like, Cami, what are the exercises we need to do to
Yeah.
get yourself there? And that's what potential is. Potential means you can develop the muscle of love within you, or
Mm.
resilience, or abundance. You can have all these things you want to have. I mean,
Mm.
imagine you right now can make as much money as you want. You just need to get your mind aligned. That's what
Yeah.
law of attraction is. That law of attraction
Yeah.
is if I have love inside me, I will attract love. I don't have to look for love. You
Yeah.
know, they said there's two ways of catching butterflies. Number one is to run around with a net, and the more you run for the butterfly, the more it runs away.
Yeah.
And the second way is to plant flowers in your garden,
Mm.
and the butterflies come to you. And that's what law of attraction is. Law of attraction is I feel so much of love, I feel passion for leadership, and I attract money, I attract opportunity, and I just based on who I am. So you
Mm.
attract who you are. And this toxic positivity is just like say affirmations. I am wealthy, I am wealthy, I am wealthy, but you don't feel it
Yeah.
on the inside. And that's why
Right.
people say affirmations don't work. So focus on the feeling inside, and
Mhm.
that's your magnet. So the feeling is a magnet, and that attracts. And by the way, it's not fluffy anymore, it's science. It's
Yeah, no, it is
neuroscience.
science.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I'm one of the people that's like, yes, all the stuff they said was woo-woo stuff. We finally have scientific backing for it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, we definitely have the backing.
But Alvin, before I let you go, I want to play a game of hot takes with you. And how it goes is I give you a series of rapid fire questions and you answer with hot or not, depending on how you feel about whatever the topic is. Are you done?
Okay, I haven't done this before. Yeah, let's go for it.
Awesome, awesome. How do you feel about journaling?
Hot.
Mm. How do you feel about scuba diving?
Not.
No.
I would do something like yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about quiet nooks in the workplace?
Definitely.
Mm.
Hot. Yeah.
Karaoke nights?
Um, not something I'm into. Yeah.
My heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
a neutral. I'm a neutral there. I'm a neutral. Yeah.
How do you feel about the hybrid sort of work format?
Hot.
Hmm. How do you feel about racing?
Car racing.
Mm.
Oh, love. Hot. On a track though.
On the track.
Where it's safe, not breaking any laws. Yeah, as long as that is fine.
Had to make that clear. How do you feel about a flat organization?
Not yeah.
Not.
Hmm.
How do you feel about the Fast and Furious movies?
Got tired of it after a while. Yeah, so not a fan anymore, but fan initially, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they've done too many
It's
now.
overdone, yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about olives on pizza?
Not.
Not. Do you not like
Not
olives?
no, definitely not. Not a
Hmm.
fan.
And how do you feel about leg day at the gym?
Love it. Love
Is
it.
that like your favorite day?
It's hard. Yeah, it's one of my favorites because it's favorite because I reprogram my mind. I
Mm,
hated it. Then I kept saying I love training legs. I love training legs, and
yeah.
eventually I started to believe it. I think.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
should try that for like upper body workouts. Upper body is like my least favorite. I'm like, oh. But that
Yeah.
brings me to the end of our hot or not section, Alvin. Thank you so, so much for joining us. This was such a great conversation. And yeah, if there are any socials that you want to plug in so that the audience can find you and maybe also find your organization online so that they're able to get in touch with you for coaching, please let us know what those are.
Yeah, so I think definitely on Facebook, on Instagram, and LinkedIn, you can find me. You'll
Mm.
find the Alvin Govender the pages and the Awakening Leadership pages on those
Awesome.
platforms.
Okay, we'll be sure
Mm.
to link those in the description box as well for everybody to find.
Mm.
But yeah, thank you so much.